Breaking news, the Buffalo Bills have just fired Ken Dorsey, this coming after their latest Monday Night Football disappointment against the Denver Broncos. Kyle, what's your first reaction seeing this one?
So a few weeks ago, I kept making the joke, hey, are you nervous about the Buffalo Bills yet? Are you nervous? Are you getting nervous? Because I'm not nervous yet. And now Buffalo Bills are nervous about the Buffalo Bills because if you fire an offensive coordinator mid-season, that is pretty close to acknowledging this thing's just about over. I mean, firing a head coach would be acknowledging the season is over. I mean, no team has ever fired a head coach for performance and ever made it to the playoffs. The only example is Rich Bisaccia with the Raiders is the only interim coach that made a playoff run, which, their coach got fired for different reasons than performance. Their coach got fired for being a public bigot. So no team has fired a coach and gone on to the playoffs. Firing an offensive coordinator mid-season, that is an interesting conversation. Now, I don't know who they're going to replace Ken Dorsey with as offensive coordinator, but if they're making an internal hire, it at least makes more sense. If they're going to have Sean McDermott be responsible for some of the play calling duties, Sean McDermott has never called an offense before. So that's a really interesting situation that they find themselves in. I guess there's got to be something deeper in there that we don't know about other than just the performance. Cause like the play calling itself wasn't necessarily the downfall of the Bills. So I'm curious to see what direction they go with from here.
Okay, so the interim OC is going to be Joe Brady. People will remember him as the offensive coordinator for the LSU Tigers during Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, the most imposing college football offense of all time. He got a chance to come into the pros, I believe, with Matt Rule in Carolina, if I'm not mistaken, right? That was his first chance to be an OC there. And it failed miserably. Him and Matt Rule just couldn't get along. They disagreed, eventually led to Joe Brady getting fired. But Joe Brady at one point was seen as kind of one of these more whiz kid style coordinators coming into the league. A lot of people thought that, hell, Joe Brady might even be a head coach one day. I'll be intrigued to see how the offense changes around him, what we'll start seeing differently with him calling plays. When it comes to Ken Dorsey, though, he came in with a lot of excitement, obviously a former quarterback himself, and people thought that, okay, maybe that he could find some sort of connection with Josh Allen. But seeing how much of a drop-off he was from Daboll, it's tangible, and I think it's reflected mostly in the interception numbers. And obviously, this is on Josh Allen himself. Josh Allen makes some dumbass decisions out there that leaves Buffalo Bills fans like pulling their hair out. But I do think the part of it is also an element of play calling. Like, Daboll put Josh Allen in a lot of positions to not turn the ball over, to have like guys schemed open. And I don't think Ken Dorsey was doing that in the same way. So I think this was needed. I just am surprised to see it so soon. But I guess losing on Monday Night Football, a standalone game, is the type of thing that causes changes to happen a little faster than you expect them to.
And their season about to go off the rails. Like they are 5-5, and they might be. I've joked basically every week they're like the greatest 5-3 team in NFL history, the greatest 5-4 team in NFL history. They might be like the most talented 5-5 team I can remember. Like it is insane that this Buffalo Bills team is 5-5 because they should never have lost to the Denver Broncos. Never. There's no reason they should have lost that football game for so many different reasons beyond 12 men on the field at the end of the game or drop pass by Gabe Davis or whatever you want to point to. There is no world where they should have lost that game. And so I'm actually really curious to see what Joe Brady does now because I had forgotten that he was still the quarterback coach there. I knew last year he was the quarterback coach after he got fired Carolina with that Sam Darnold season, but I'm actually really interested to see where Joe Brady goes with this because, I mean, there were talks about him being fast-tracked to a head coaching job, that he would get to call plays for one of these NFL teams again relatively soon. Now he's jumping into big shoes with an offense that is, their best chance to win the Super Bowl has passed them by, but a team that still expects to be one of the 11 best teams in the NFL. Like they expect to be back where they were last year in the second round of the playoffs. So I'm really interested to see what Joe Brady does with this team.
I kind of wonder, and this could be the biggest change in the Bills offense moving forward, how will Joe Brady utilize Josh Allen in the running game? Because I think there's been a certain level of Ken Dorsey wanting to mitigate Josh Allen's running during the season. But at this point, now that you're 5-5, we talked about, should you save Josh Allen running until like the postseason when it really matters, right? Well, now games are starting to really matter for the Buffalo Bills because they can't afford to keep losing any more of these. And if you know that you have Josh Allen's ability to run the football in your back pocket, you kind of have to start using it because this running game is still looking constipated as it has over the course of the last 3-4 years. James Cook, Latavius Murray, the guys that they have in the backfield just aren't getting it done still. So your most talented runner is Josh Allen. I think Joe Brady, it would behoove him to use that at least to get them some positive momentum moving forward because they're going to have some tough games coming up. I believe they still have Dallas on their schedule. They have another Jets game still on their schedule. I want to say Kansas City still on their schedule as well. So those are 3 big games coming up. And I think the only way you win those is if Josh Allen is at least giving you 50 to 80 yards on the ground.
Yeah, in past years, I've said that the strategy for them is to save Josh Allen for the playoffs because he is your number 1 running back at this stage of the game. And with Brian Daboll, they used him pretty consistently in the playoffs. I remember that game that they played Kansas City, the awesome 13 seconds Mahomes field goal, the greatest football game maybe ever played. I remember in that game, Josh Allen ran the ball like 17 times, and I think the next closest rusher for the Bills was Singletary with like 5 carries. So like they made it clear that Josh Allen was the number 1 running back. And in that playoff game against Cincinnati, granted, they went down 14-0 in the first quarter, so they didn't have the option to run as much in the snow, but they didn't use Josh Allen in the running game very much at all. I mean, they didn't use much of a running game, period, when they were chasing the Bengals from 14-0 back last year. And that's really the only playoff game I have to go off of for our guy, Ken Dorsey. I mean, granted, they played Skylar Thompson in a playoff game against the Dolphins, but like there wasn't much to really take away from that game. So, I mean, the games that really truly mattered, they didn't really have a chance to use Josh Allen like that. And now the games really truly matter because not only are they out of the playoffs right now, they're like a whole game out of the playoffs right now. I think 6-3 Steelers are the 7 seed right now in the AFC playoff pictures. So like they kind of got to get it going real quick because like they are in jeopardy of missing the playoffs altogether.
Okay, guys. Well, Ken Dorsey, he's out. Joe Brady in. How does this change around the Buffalo Bills offense? Do you think they could get back on track? 5-5, as you heard Kyle say, they are a game out of the playoffs if the season ended today. Can they get some big wins against some tougher competition coming up? How are you feeling about this Buffalo Bills team? Drop below in the comment section. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on our social medias. From Juju and Kyle, stay safe, happy, and healthy. We'll see you next time.